All right, today we're diving into a truly mind-bending idea. What if information, the stuff that makes up data, code, even thought, what if it isn't just an abstract concept? What if it's a physical property of the universe, just like mass and energy? And what if it could literally bend the fabric of reality itself? This right here is the core claim from the source material. I know, it sounds more like poetry than physics, doesn't it? But it's the foundation of a new, fully formalized theory that suggests the sheer density of information has a real physical effect on the universe. That is the big question, right? And it's exactly what we're going to unpack in this explainer. We're going to look at the theory, the math behind it, and the absolutely wild implications of a universe where complexity itself has weight. So, what's really at the heart of all this? Well, to make information a physical thing, the theory has to propose something totally new, a universal field that exists everywhere, permeating all of reality. Meet the Xi field, spelled Xi and represented by this Greek letter, Xi. The easiest way to think about it is like a magnetic field, but instead of measuring magnetic force, it measures the density of information and the complexity of structure at every single point in space and time. Now, this is really important to get. This is way more than just some cool thought experiment. The source material is clear. They see this as a pillar-level framework. It's a serious attempt to build the physics of information from the ground up and have it stand right alongside general relativity and the standard model. And get this, the people behind this theory have really done their homework. The Xi field theory ticks all the boxes of a legit physical theory. It's got defined field equations, it's compatible with the existing laws of physics, and this is the big one. It makes specific, observable predictions that we can actually go out and test. But the real power here, the secret sauce of the Z field, comes from connecting it to two other revolutionary ideas in physics. Fusing them all together creates something much more profound. So on one hand, you have constructor theory, which is all about what's physically possible versus impossible to create. And on the other, you have assembly theory, which gives us a way to measure an object's complexity by counting the minimum number of steps it took to build it. Now, when you bring these two into the fold with the Xi field, everything changes. Suddenly, the Z field isn't just passively measuring complexity anymore. It becomes an active operator. It doesn't just describe what is right now, it starts to describe what could be and how it got there. It becomes a measure of both physical feasibility and deep causal history. And this is the engine room of the whole theory, the unified Lagrangian. Now, don't let the math scare you. The best way to think of this as the fundamental recipe for reality, combining all those powerful ingredients we just talked about. So let's break that cosmic recipe down. The first ingredient is the kinetic gradient. That's basically the energy cost of moving information from one place to another. Next is the compression potential, which is the energy stored in the complexity of the information itself. Then you have the gauge coupling, which acts like a bridge connecting the Z field to other forces like electromagnetism. And that last piece, the assembly index. This one is the real game changer. It literally encodes an object's history, its cosmic price tag, based on how many steps it took to build. Okay, so we've got this new field, we've got this powerful new recipe, but what does it actually do? Well, it fundamentally rewrites some of the most basic rules we thought we knew about the universe. First up, it modifies Einstein's famous field equation for gravity. See that new term on the right? That's the Z stress-energy tensor. Now, in simple terms, a stress-energy tensor tells spacetime how to curve. So that new term is mathematical proof that gradients in information, places where complexity changes quickly, exert their own gravitational pull. That's right, information officially gets a say in the curvature of spacetime. Second, we get this brand new wave equation. And what's so cool about this one is that it's nonlinear. That little detail allows information to clump together into stable, self-contained packets that can travel through space without just fizzling out. Think of it like a ripple in a pond that holds its exact shape perfectly as it travels. These things are called solitons. And this is a brilliant visualization of what one of those solitons could look like. You're not looking at a particle of matter here. You're looking at a stable, self-reinforcing pulse of pure information and complexity moving through the universe like a physical object. I know, this is all pretty mind-bending stuff, but it's just a theory until you can prove it, right? So how in the world could we actually test any of this? Well, the framework makes some very concrete, falsifiable predictions. Let's see what they are. It really boils down to two main testable predictions. One is on the quantum scale, and it has to do with making quantum computers more stable. The other is on the cosmic scale, and it has to do with gravity itself. So here's the first test. The theory says that if you put a delicate quantum state inside an environment with a really high density of complex information, a high Xi field, that field should act like a shield, protecting the qubit from decaying. And it's not just a vague idea. It predicts a hard number, a 10 to 20% increase in how long a qubit can hold its state. That's something you can actually go look for in a lab. The second prediction is even crazier. Could an object with just an unbelievable amount of information density, what the theory calls a compression horizon, like a massive Google data center or the event horizon of a black hole, could it produce a tiny, measurable gravitational pull that we can't explain with its mass and energy alone? This theory says absolutely yes. Okay, so let's just step back for a second. If any of this turns out to be true, it would completely change how we see reality. Let's zoom out and really think about the big picture here. For the last 100 years, the rule has been simple. Mass and energy curve spacetime. That's it. The Z-field theory proposes a third fundamental source, information itself. And not just its density, but its history. Information stops being abstract and becomes a physical part of reality. And think about what this means for artificial intelligence. An AI that understands this physics could tell the difference between an action that's just statistically probable and one that's actually physically constructible. It would give machines a much deeper, more grounded understanding of reality, moving them past just recognizing patterns to truly grasping cause and effect. And this question gets right to the heart of it all. A strand of DNA is the result of billions of years of evolution. It has a massive causal history, an enormous assembly index. This series suggests that because of that deep history, which is physically real in the Xi field, it might actually exert a slightly stronger gravitational pull than a random rock of the exact same mass. Think about that, meaning itself might have gravity. And that leaves us with one final massive question. We live in an age where we are creating and compressing information at an exponential rate. If all that information isn't just data, if it's a real physical force that actively shapes the universe, then what kind of reality are we building?